You've just entered the law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker. If you've come for actual legal advice, you need to turn right around, honey. You need to get out of here, 'cause you ain't gonna get none of that. They quibble, and they squabble, and they bicker. But if you want to hear meaningless opinions, this is the right place. They got plenty of that. Stuff that makes no sense at all. They go off on tangents. It's crazy talk. If that's your thing, keep listening. They'll keep talking.
Oh no no, oh no no, it's another episode of the Law Offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker. You've entered the Law Offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker. Yay!
Welcome to another episode of the Law Offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker on this March 31st, March 31st, 2000.
It's 31st.
Greg, have you been drinking for me again?
Yes.
March 31st,
You're getting
2021.
drunk for me.
And we have a really great guest today. We've got Bruce Starr, who hosts the podcast, the 80s Golden Age of Comedy. It's also got a website. But back in the 80s, he represented stand-up comedians, about 35 of them, I believe, for a number of years, and helped them with their careers. And he's gone on to more interesting things as life. Well, I don't know if they're more interesting, but more additional interesting things as the years have gone by. And now he's going to be on our show. So, we're capping his career. And then later on, we'll be discussing our client that he will help us with. We're Not Funny. And if you've been listening to us for a while, all 1,000,006,000 listeners out there, you know we're not funny. So moving on to Bruce Starr. Brendan has said at least one time that he is a student of comedy. So Brendan, I think you should probably start off the questions here.
I'm a student of comedy. One of the things you need to know about the law offices, Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker, Bruce, is that Matt is the quibbler. So I said I was a student of comedy because I enjoy comedy and I watch it and I like to, kind of listen to it. But anyway, be that as it may. So
that's never let him live.
This is Brendan's disclaimer.
No, this has been going on. No, I think it's important to note, Matt, this has been going on since the 90s with you and me. I think you pointed it out in episode 22 or something. But Bruce, let me ask you. So in the 80s, who did you represent and how did you get involved in representing comics?
Oh, it was quite an interesting story. Even if I hear myself say it myself, which I have a tendency to do when we do great shows like this, someone picked me up and put me on the doorstep of the improvisation on Melrose in Hollywood in 1981. He said, "You want to be in show business? Go in there and hang out there. And here's a couple of comedians you can ask for, and they'll take care of you." And
so this is like a comedy pimp who found you hanging out on a street corner and decided to put you to work?
That's about as close an explanation of it as you can get. Absolutely.
Was he good to you?
Did he treat you well?
He wasn't, but when he put me on the doorstep of the Improv, that was an amazing turn of events that turned out to be one of the great times of my life. Yeah. So anyway, you asked who I represented. So week after week of being at the Improv and talking to the guys and talking to them before they went on. Oh, keep quiet. We have...
I thought that was Greg.
That's like the Hound of the Baskervilles.
It wasn't my dog this time.
We should add him to the show.
What kind? Now, time out. What kind of dog is that?
It's a wire-haired border terrier.
Oh.
Someone said the other day it looks like he stuck his paw in a socket and his hair is just like kind of wild.
Yeah, normally during the show, my dog will go off. I don't think Matt or Greg have dogs. So I have a long-haired dachshund who's got a very sharp bark, and luckily he's quiet right now. So
we have a dog. It's just I've got noise canceling on this microphone, so you guys don't hear him bark.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah. He's super cool.
Step up, Brendan. Come on.
Yeah.
How much does that cost? We want to buy into that.
I just keep thinking that Matt looks like he's trying to take my order at Burger King.
Would you like fries with that?
No. But so you get dropped off at the door. This is fascinating. And you walk in, and what happens? You just walk up to a.
He gave me the name of a couple of comedians to look up, guys that didn't have their heads in the clouds and really nice, decent guys.
Well, who is this guy? Who is this random guy who just tosses you in front of a comedy club?
Well, I'll tell you, I went to Northeastern University with him in Boston.
Okay.
And he moved out to Los Angeles. He was in the advertising agency business. The funniest guy I know who has not been on stage. And when I told him I was coming out to be that I wanted to be in the business, he just picked me up at my sister's and just put me on the doorstep.
Oh, got it. Okay. So see, I have this whole picture of like you just came into the train station and some guy in like a zoot suit comes up and goes, Hey kid, I'm going to take you someplace.
Zoot suit Matt in the 70s, in the 80s.
There was a huge.
Everyone wore them then.
There was a huge zoot suit thing happening in the 80s that no one knows about but Matt, because it was a big thing in Baltimore, but not anywhere else.
There were riots.
Yeah, I heard about him.
Did you? They wrote a song about it. Anyway, Bruce, so sorry. You're very polite, and thank you for putting up with us. So your friend dropped you off at the Improv, suggesting that you do something and not leech off of him, I'm assuming.
Exactly. He didn't give me any money to do that. He said, listen, if you want to be in the business, just go in there. And that's what I did. I just hung out every night at the Improv with these guys, and these guys introduced me to other guys. And I'd go in and watch them perform, and then they'd come off, and we, sit around, and it was terrific. And then one day I walked into the Improv, and there was this big production going on, and they were shooting Evening at the Improv
with Bud Freeman.
Yes, and on those nights they would have like guests that would come in and introduce the acts, like Phil Silvers and Jackie Mason and Phyllis Diller. Just unbelievable people who I grew up just, wow, it was just incredible. Vincent Price, sort of the scary Vincent Price. He was a host on the show. Amazing guy. Sat with him at the bar, not drinking, but just listening to his stories.
Did he tell ghost stories instead of jokes when he got up on stage?
He was a very charming guy, but, whatever jokes he told, I'm sure were written for him and were on those cards, because I don't think he was naturally a funny guy.
He says that now because Vincent is going to come after him.
On open mic nights. Did you get up and try?
I had absolutely no interest to do that. I was scared essless to really even try.
Wait, what's an essless? Is that a type of car?
Show clean. I try to keep my show clean. If the comedians want to curse, they can, but I try to keep it clean. So I was scared shitless to get on the stage to do it, but it was never really something I wanted to do. I really always loved the idea of being with people who make the world happen and make the world go round. And I like the idea of being, next to them, but not them. Because, there was something that told me that there's a lot, there was a kind of a negative payoff to being famous. I just knew that without knowing it exactly yet. And I found out later how much negativity there can be involved when someone kind of rises to the top.
Sure.
I just knew I didn't want to be that target. And
Since you're not going to be famous, realize that you don't have to censor yourself on our show then. You can say whatever you want about anybody since you're not going to be famous, so that you can say, as many bad things as you want about anybody.
Shit. Like
Yeah, like Matt is an asshole. You can say that. And
right.
It'd be totally
and Brendan
fine.
has said that on more than one occasion.
So who was the first comic that you sort of hooked up with that you started to represent? Who was the first one?
Well,
Anyone we know? Or
the first ones were my immediate friends that may not have been household words yet, but I started asking them if they once the comedy clubs opened up, my roommate suggested that I make calls for the comedians because the big time agents didn't want to do it. And they didn't want to call the clubs. It's like embarrassing. They just wanted to be the talent. So my roommate, why don't you call for them? They like you, they respect you, they know you. And I said, I really don't want to do that because from my knowledge and from my experience, everybody hated their agent. And I didn't want to be someone everybody hated.
So you're
So
more
I
like their
Right.
secretary than their agent, though, at that time.
But, my roommate said, make them money, make yourself money, and just get past that. And let, you want to be in the business. You want people to come at you and to you for reasons other than hello. And I said, that was it. I wanted to be inside their business and inside their professionalism. And that's when I said yes. And then within a few months, I had 35 stand-up comedians. Now, one night I went over to the Comedy Store, and I went almost mostly to the Improv. One night I went to the Comedy Store, and I saw this guy from Toronto control the stage. He was doing some outrageous things and getting some huge laughs. His name was Howie Mandel. Spectacular. And eventually I asked him if he'd like me to represent him, and he said yes, and that really helped my career when he did that.
So were you the one who first put the rubber surgical glove on his head?
See, I was going to say that that he did some outrageous things, and one was that he took a glove and until his glove got that big. And another thing he did, which I never forgot, and I know he stopped doing this, is he would take a whole thing of talcum powder and throw it into his face and become a mime, right? And he very easily could have damaged himself because now there's like class action suits against talcum powder for what it can do to you. But, I saw him, and here's the amazing thing about this whole thing. At the time, he was on a show called St. Elsewhere. Raise your hand if you know St. Elsewhere.
Used to love that show.
We're old. We're old. We know this stuff, Bruce.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool show. So he was the comic relief in the middle of serious doctoring, right? And he was cute, and he had hair, and he was adorable. So Johnny Carson, everybody knows Johnny Carson, Tonight Show.
Everyone in this room does, anyway.
Okay, cool.
Just so you know, all of our listeners do too. We're not like some sort of a millennial TikTok crowd listening to our show. So.
Okay.
Although I've been working the TikTok angle, Brendan, I haven't told you about this, but I've been putting videos on TikTok promoting the show.
Hey, Bruce, would you dance for us for the TikTok?
So
a little funky dance.
I was just going to ask Matt if he did it with his clothes on or his clothes off.
Well, my face is usually bare.
Okay.
So, yeah, other than glasses, but in the beard.
Okay.
Nothing else is hidden on my face. So that's naked.
I'll get back to it because it's really sort of an interesting story. That Johnny Carson asked, and NBC asked Howie to come on the show because he was on an NBC show. And they found that every time he was on the show, their ratings went up a point. So they would invite him back on like every 6 weeks or every couple of months. And you remember what they did at the end of a comedian's appearance? They would always say, so where are you going to be performing? And he would tell them. And if I was lucky and if I was one of the good ones, he would be promoting the gigs that I got him. So it really...
So you weren't the only one who represented him in that sense?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
He had his theatrical agent. He had his commercial agent. But I may have been one of the personal appearance agents that represented. Maybe way back when I was the only one. And he's the kind of guy, maybe he made the calls himself because I certainly wasn't the only one getting him jobs. I know he was getting jobs.
So your official title was personal appearance agent?
Personal appearance agent. That's very different from managing. Because some shows introduce me as Howie Mandel's manager or, Murray Langston, the Unknown Comics manager. No, I wasn't their manager. A manager would be someone who would approach the talent and say, look, I think you're off to a great start, and I would like to form and shape you and make you the biggest star possible. Where an agent would just go to the talent and go to the manager and say, hey, I got this job, I got that job, what do you think, what do you think? And the manager would talk it over with the talent and say, yes or no, is it going to build your career or not? Where the agent just wants to make his money getting you jobs. So there's a big difference.
Like a temp agency.
Well, it's more like a headhunter, Greg. He's like getting the comedians to the the right places for them
The comedy
to
clubs
perform.
were exploding all over the country. I saw that as an opportunity.
Yeah, they made a mess everywhere. All those explosions, man. It was just like this huge epidemic of just people just
The Chuckle Hut.
splattering everywhere.
And then a comedy club would land, like in The Wizard of Oz.
Right. So I have a question. So you mentioned the unknown comic. How did you meet him? Was that pre-Gong Show, after Gong Show?
Or did he just met him at a bag party?
It was. I did not wear a bag when I met him, so he didn't. He wasn't interested in me.
But
well, that's good.
Not in that way.
He did
That was his fetish.
He's the funniest guy alive, by the way. Oh my God, is he funny? He did 150 Gong shows. And here's why he put the bag over his head. On my show, the 80s Golden Age of Comedy, and by the way, .com. By the way, if people want to binge on programming, oh my God, I've interviewed over 40 comedians and celebrities now. And not only will you laugh, but you'll learn about their personal lives that you'll really never learn anyplace else. Because I asked them, what was it like before you got famous? How'd you fight your way towards getting famous? And what was it like when you got famous? These are things that you don't hear anyplace else. So
I watched the first 3 minutes of the Murray Langston interview where he was taking a leak the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
Which I was thinking this is the one that Greg needs to watch because he's doing it often on our program.
But, wait a minute. Wait, time out. So the guy is actually taking a leak while he's talking to you on the show?
Yes.
Yeah, you didn't see him do it. You
Right.
just heard him do it.
Okay.
And he's talking to him while he's doing it.
And he,
yeah.
And he would say, oh, this is great. This is great. Oh, there's more. Oh, wait, there's more. Oh.
Oh, my God. That's comedy gold.
See, I thought he wore the bag because he was.
Golden
I think he
showers.
was also the San Diego Chicken, wasn't he? Way back when.
No.
Oh,
I'll
that
tell
was
you
just
why he wore the bag.
Okay.
And you'll only hear this on my show or from me.
Okay.
He was really a busy performing artist. He was on a bunch of shows, Sonny and Cher. I can't even. He was one of the original guys, believe it or not, on Laugh-In. And I'll get to the other story in a second. He called George Slatter on the phone, the producer of Laugh-In. George picks up the phone and he says, "Hi, my name is Murray Langston. I'm funny. I want to be on your show." So he said, "Well, what do you do?" He says, "I do impersonations." He says, "Impersonations of a what?" And Murray told him, "I do impersonations of a fork." George says, "Come on down tomorrow. I want to meet you." And he got on laughing.
Nice.
And he said, "What do you do to follow that up?" He says, "I do impersonations of a spoon."
Cutlery.
Cutlery.
He made his mark in cutlery.
Could he do a spatula?
Cutlery humor is really underrated, but
It's quite niche, actually.
It's very niche.
Yeah.
But if you could work with Goldie Hawn and all those great comedians on there, it's worth it to go for cutlery. Anyway, so here's what he said. He did all these great shows, and they were offering, I don't know, $75 or $100 to be on the Gong Show. And he said, "I'm not going to be on that ridiculous show. I'm sort of too famous, too known, too successful. It would be a step down for me to be on that show." So he said, "I'm going to put a bag over my head so nobody knows who I am." And that's how it started. And it killed.
It did. I remember it well. Yeah. But he said he only made like $100 every time he appeared.
Maybe not later on.
Yeah.
But I think in the beginning, there wasn't much to be made. But he needed the money. And, he's a real down-to-earth kind of guy. He needed the money, so he did it.
Did you ever get to be on the set of the Gong Show yourself, Bruce? Did you ever visit on set?
No.
So your main interactions with the comedians was you were calling them on the phone and you were booking gigs for them.
Yeah.
That was as much as you basically interacted?
Just comedy clubs.
Right.
I wasn't getting him on Carson or Merv Griffin or anything like that. It was just, I found a niche for myself. And I got them on comedy. And that's why I didn't piss anybody off. I didn't piss their agents off. I didn't piss their managers off. I didn't piss the talent off. I found a comfortable niche for myself where I was really needed. And because I was a decent guy and, somewhat of an honest guy and wasn't too much of a pain in the ass, they allowed me into the world.
I love the somewhat of an honest guy.
Yeah,
That's very self-aware, Bruce. I appreciate that.
So how much did they pay you for booking a comedy gig?
10%.
10%. So whatever they made from whatever place they went, you get a straight 10%.
I tried to get them 2,000 or 3,000 a weekend, 2 on Friday, 2 on Saturday. I'll tell you a funny story that happened to Murray. I get Murray 2 on Friday and 2 on Saturday in Pittsburgh. And, they're supposed to have his ticket at the airport and they put him up in a hotel. And I get a call at 6:30 in the morning. He's screaming at me. He says, those mothers, they didn't leave the tickets at the airport. I'm going home.
Why were there mothers who had his tickets? Whose mothers were they?
Yeah, there was some miscommunication there.
Okay, yeah, it sounds like it.
Right.
So he says, I'm going home. I said, Murray, please. Murray, there's 4 shows. They're sold out. There's like 1,000 people who are going to come. Please, let me call them and see if I can work this out. So he says, and I mean, there was no cell phones. These were, right, phone booths and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know how I worked it out. Yeah, dial phones, exactly. And I don't know how we worked it out, but they were able to wire the ticket to the airport, and he got on the plane and went to Pittsburgh.
Whoa.
Wow.
So me and Matt both heard the interview with Bobby the Pitbull Slayton that you did on your site. And
it's the Pitbull
I just
of
want
comedy,
you to tell
Greg.
us what?
So it's the Pitbull of comedy. He's not actually
Well,
a
after
Pitbull.
seeing that show, I know why he's called the Pitbull, because that guy is vicious. But I'm curious, the short time you managed him, was it a nightmare?
I didn't manage him.
He was a personal appearance agent, you bastard.
I forget these things. I'm not a Hollywood big shot like you, Matt.
You don't have to be a Hollywood big shot to remember what he said.
I mix these things up. What was that like, being his agent?
Seeing that show, if you didn't know any better, you would see someone tear me to shreds.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Oh, yes, it was funny.
Hilarious.
Did you ever book him at the DC Improv in the early 90s?
No, not in the early 90s. No.
Okay. Because that's where I saw Bobby Slayton in person. I actually talked to him very briefly right before that gig.
The reason why he has that title, he is so funny. He just goes and he's flying. His anger is all over the place. But here's one of the funniest lines, and I'm still laughing about it. He said, someone came over to him and he said, who is your personal appearance agent? He said, Bruce Starr. And he said, Bruce Starr is your personal appearance agent? He says, yeah. He says, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Can I buy you a cup of coffee?
So you had that reputation in the comedy field.
You know what? If they can include me in their material, I was honored. Really, really honored.
Well, I mean, you were able to make a living doing it, obviously.
Yes, I did for about 3, 4, 5 years. It was really something else.
So why just for that period of time? How come you didn't continue past those 3 or 5 years?
Okay, so now I'm going to tell you something personal.
Okay.
My mom had a stroke and died.
Well, it's very personal, and we're sorry to hear that.
And it changed everything for me. And I was struggling in other ways out there that, some of you haven't even shared this on another show, but you guys look homely enough, so I'll share this.
Yes, we are home. We're homely enough for anything you want to share with us.
Okay. Absolutely.
We're all sad.
Ladies have always been very important to me, and relationships has always been very important to me, and socializing and sex, whatever it is, has always been pretty important to me. Well, when I went out there, I didn't have what it took to really have a fantastic relationship. And what did it take? You had to be a producer, casting director, somebody important, a cocaine dealer, whatever it was. You had to.
That's somebody important.
Like that.
Cocaine dealer to the stars.
Yeah.
Well, or else they didn't care. And so I had a really tough time out there. Now I had.
You weren't like trafficking the synagogues at all, or?
Not at all. I wasn't. I wasn't doing that at all at that time.
Okay.
I was on my own with this comedy. You know, the comedians will tell you, if you don't focus in one area, if you're a stand-up comedian and you have a job selling cars, or you're doing all this other stuff, it's not going to happen. You have to be incredibly focused. And I had to be, even to have my job, because I just had to be on target all the time. I had one dynamic, incredibly sexy, erotic relationship that blew my mind, literally.
This is not the one with Howie Mandel.
Not with Howie.
Okay, good.
No.
You want to hear about Howie? Howie has had he's been married. He's been with one woman for over 40 years. You know, if you think he looks like a real mensch, a real guy, he is. He's an incredible guy. And I hope he hears me say this on your show, so he'll come on my show.
So is he not returning your calls, Bruce? Is that what
Not
you're
yet.
saying? Well, he's not that much of a mensch now, is he?
Well, I
hold
haven't
on.
spoken to him in 40 years because I hadn't had to. So it's okay if he doesn't call me back.
He sounds like a bit of a schmecklehead.
Is he calling? Is Howie Mandel calling you right now, Brendan?
Yeah, let me get him on the phone. God damn it, Howie. Jesus
Return
Christ.
Bruce's calls.
Howie, this is Brendan. You know me, the guy from Florida. Yeah, you fuck. You need to call Bruce back, you piece of shit. You know, that whole thing you're doing with the show and all that. Yeah, it's okay, but you need to call Bruce. All right.
Yeah,
all right.
it's
Bye.
not America's Got Talent. It's America's Got Bruce Starr's number.
There you go.
Jesus.
Return that call, Howie.
All right. If he calls you, let me know.
Maybe we get onto that the deal or
Respect
no deal and put your phone number in one of those suitcases.
Yeah.
There you go.
Being on the 80s golden age of comedy is on the top of the list. That will help anyone's career.
So you did it for 3 to
Absolutely.
5 years. You had sex with Howie Mandel, and then you left the business.
No,
Oh, sorry.
There was a girl. There was a girl. I want to hear about this girl.
I just missed the agent thing.
Oh, you want to hear about the girl?
I
Yes.
do.
Well,
I
your
do.
mother had passed, and then you were having sex problems. So
I
understandably,
want to hear about
so.
the girl. I don't.
Yeah.
I'll tell you about the girl because that's more interesting.
No,
So-
it's way more interesting.
I don't even remember where I met this young lady, but I remember exactly where I met her. Oh my God. I was backstage. I'm really going to age myself. I was backstage at Laverne and Shirley, I believe it was, on the Paramount stage. And
Okay.
everybody was getting their hair done. They were getting their makeup done. And I walked into a room where there were two women doing someone's hair. And one woman was in her 30s or 40s, and another one was young. And when I looked at this girl, it was one of those things where, like that. It was like, I don't know, they could say love at first sight, whatever.
It's like a doorstop when you flick with your finger. Got it.
It was something else. It was from another life. I don't know what it was. But we started talking.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, before they started taping the actual show, we were just off stage making out like we hadn't seen each other in decades.
And you had just met her. And you're just
wow. Yeah,
getting it. Okay. That's normal.
The hot
That's special. That's very cool. You know, that doesn't happen.
For people who don't get venereal diseases.
I
To
ever
finish your
had.
sentence.
And
Jesus Christ.
I heard a voice go off in my head. Doesn't happen too often. I'm admitting more shit to you guys than I care to admit, okay?
We're like therapists.
Thank you.
And lawyers.
Except for Matt, who's an asshole. But go on.
But
Well,
I'm certified.
I'll
I'm a
talk
certified
to you.
superior asshole.
Yeah.
So
What I was going to say before Matt interrupted with his venereal disease thing is the truth of that shit doesn't happen. A lot of people don't experience that in your life. That's really actually pretty special.
I
That
was
you
32 when that happened. 32. And I'd already lived in Boston for 10 years and already had a great fun, lots of different experiences. And I met this girl when I was 32. Now, here's what happened.
And she was
The first time you
17?
kissed a girl.
No.
I'm not telling you how old she was. But
Oh,
anyway,
okay. Fine.
But I thought she had to be of some professional age because she was in the room doing hair.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
That was good enough for me. If
In the
Paramount
80s, that would have totally passed.
What are you implying, Brendan?
Nothing.
So anyway, it turns out that maybe after we broke up, I realized after rattling my cage for several months, one day she said, you know, I want to be an actress. I said, why do you want to do that? You don't want to be an actress. Yeah, I really want to be an actress. So then we broke up. And after we broke up, she landed 2 or 3 movies.
Nice. Do we know who she is?
It's Meg Ryan, isn't it?
Meg Ryan. Oh my God.
I was going to say Meg Tilly.
Good call.
Nailed it.
I'd take either one of those, but no. She did a couple of like horror, scary kind of things.
Oh, she's like a scream queen.
I'm seeing them. She did pretty well. I really, honestly don't know the names of them, but it was quite a shock to see how beautiful she was. For me, she was beautiful and.
So for like 3 months, first of all, she was the first time you kissed a girl, right? At the age of 32.
He didn't say that.
You're not listening, Matt.
I was listening, but I was implying something. So,
I
didn't have an answer.
Before I had some kisses before.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure that was the case. All right, so you weren't completely a shut-in up to the age of 32.
Not if you live in Boston.
This is just your full-blown, like highly testosterone charged incident backstage at Laverne and Shirley.
Don't use that word because we're talking about relationships now. And Boston had 124 colleges and universities, and every September there were new freshmen.
Boston is basically Pussy Town, is what Bruce is saying.
Isn't that the slogan on the city sign whenever people are coming in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Welcome to Pussy Town.
Yeah.
I've seen that sign.
When I was last in Boston, I drove in. I stopped and did a kind of a high five salute to the Pussy Town sign.
You did a high five to the sign. Did your hand come off as you're driving by?
No, I got out of the car. I'll explain it to you slowly. I parked. I got out of the car. I shut the door. I walked over. I slapped the sign, high five.
And then you got back in the car and drove on.
And then I'm sorry. I didn't. Yeah, I got back in the car on the driver's side. I got back in the car. I put the keys in, and then I drove.
You know, this is a perfect movement into our client right now, which is
what?
We're not funny.
We're not funny.
That's true.
So here's where we talk about our fake client. We're not funny this time, which is essentially, since you were dealing with comedians and you had an affinity for comedians, what do you think made one guy more funny than another guy? What do you think the people you represented, did you only represent the ones that you thought were funny or ones that other people thought were funny?
Yeah, no, I handpicked the ones who I thought were funny. Listen, after you have 35 comedians, you can only take so many. Like, for instance, one day I had this picture sent into my office, and this girl from New Orleans, it was like kind of blurry, and she hadn't really worked that much, and there's no way that I could take her when I had all these 35 other comedians. So I had to send Ellen Degeneres a rejection note saying, maybe sometime later on.
Oh, maybe she'll take your call now since you rejected her.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if she remembers me for rejecting her. That'd be interesting.
It might be worth getting somebody to make a phone call to her place and say, do you remember the guy who rejected you when you needed someone? When Bruce Starr said you weren't good enough for him? Did you only represent like male comics or something?
Not at all.
I mean,
Oh, Brendan is fake calling Ellen Degeneres now.
I'm just saying Ellen Degeneres, male comic. She's not answering.
What are you saying, Brendan?
I'm not saying anything.
Something bad. Something not funny.
Yes.
That's right. Something not funny.
So
brings us back to our client.
Of the people in your stable, who would you say you left the most with?
Murray Langston took me on the road with him to Dallas, and he did 4 or 5 or 6 shows. As soon as we got on the plane, the stewardesses were in stitches. When we went out to eat, the waitresses and everybody at the restaurants were in stitches. He was making everybody laugh. And if you see that show that we did together, it was just about 3 weeks ago, you'd understand how he would leave his mark on you. He was very, very funny.
So what was it that he did that made him so funny? What
Complete
was it?
silliness. Willing to say anything, do anything, make fun of anything, and to keep on going at it until it came out funny.
So was it his material? Was it his demeanor? Was it his personality?
Everything.
The whole package.
When it's like when you talk about a baseball player coming up, and if it's an offensive player, he's got bat speed, he's got glove, he's got an arm. So, how does he rate on like 5 different things? So it's the same thing with comedians. I never rated anybody, but somebody like Howie Mandel, the unknown comic, rates in high on all those things. Being willing to be ridiculous, being willing to be crazy, take chances, try new things. That's what it took. And that's why Robin Williams was so exceptional. And that's why Jonathan Winters was so exceptional. And why everybody looked up to Richard Pryor and people like that, because they were just nuts on stage.
Right. I just want to point out, Bruce, you made a baseball reference. These guys don't get sports. I understand what you were saying. Do you guys understand what he's talking about?
Explain it after the show.
I didn't actually hear a baseball reference.
Yeah. That's what you see what I'm talking about, Bruce? Like,
what's baseball?
Yeah, baseball right over their head.
I'm sorry. I should have asked if anybody knows baseball. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I know, and I'm a Red Sox fan, so go Red Sox.
Well, isn't it like whenever you throw a ball against something, it makes the sound of a base?
Yeah, we're gonna move on.
Baseball.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, we're moving on from any. We can't talk about sports on this show.
Crickets.
No, Matt's representing our client. We're not funny. He's doing a good job. Keep going, Matt. Good work.
Yeah, that's great. So, one of the things that I've always thought about comedy is timing. Like some of the, great comedians, I think, just have this natural sense of timing. And some of the ones that I think, I don't know, I view as sort of like a next tier comedian are their timing isn't as good. What are your feelings about that?
My feelings are one word here or one word there, taken out, added, can sometimes make a joke kill the next time out. So, of course, it's timing. You remember Jack Benny? Who remembers Jack Benny? Okay. Jack Benny. Oh, not everybody.
I was just looking behind me if there was other people there that were supposed to be
worse than the baseball reference. Jack Benny was the best at having that straight face, and he would look over to the side. He wouldn't say a word. He'd just look.
This Jack Benny. This is what Jack Benny used to do, right, Bruce? He'd always do that little thing.
Yeah. Yes. And Rochester. And
yes, so funny.
He would barely say anything, right? So, What is comedy? Comedy is facial expressions, it's voice tonations, it's sometimes saying nothing, it's a look. There's so much to it. And
in the movie Man on the Moon, which is the biopic on Andy Kaufman, Jim Carrey at one point expresses that the secret to comedy is silence.
Oh boy, I
thought it was a very interesting statement to make.
One time I saw Andy Kaufman when I was at the Improv, and I told you I went in a lot, and Andy came on stage, and he walks in with a table. He puts the table down. He goes off stage. He gets a bowl. He gets some milk, comes back on stage. He gets some cereal, comes back on stage. He sits down, gets his fork, gets his spoon, puts the cereal in, puts the milk in, and just eats.
That was his bit.
That was his bit. That is so crazy.
He
I
don't
remember
even
hearing
look
an
around.
interview with Robin Williams where like he and Richard Pryor did something similar to that back in San Francisco when they were starting out. They would try out all sorts of things, but they had a thing where they sat down at a table and like ate breakfast.
Yeah, but they made it. They might have been funny. This was not.
No,
funny.
no, a lot of Andy Kaufman stuff is really objectively not funny. It's like cringe humor. You're just like, what is this guy doing? What?
You want some cringe? You want some cringe?
Yes, please.
Another
Yes.
night,
Went to cringe.
I go in and watch him because I want to see what he's going to do next.
God
Get him
knows.
on stage, and he says, "I have a cyst on my neck. It's really gross. Who wants to come up and touch my cyst?" Form a line to the right. 10, 15, 20 people stood on line, went to the back of his neck and touched it, and walked off. The next one touched his cyst. That was his act that night.
Wow.
Was that like a 5-minute act? Or
That
longer?
wasn't funny.
Was that
No,
5
that's-
minutes?
It's not funny.
No, it lasted longer than that.
The story is funny, though. I think he was a performance artist, Andy Kaufman, more than he was a comedian.
Yeah, I think he always looked at himself that way as more.
But, I
yeah,
talked to you about stretching and taking chances,
Right.
But then you look at him being a wrestler and what he did with professional wrestlers. You can't beat that.
Yeah. Get your
Well, I
neck
think he
broken.
helped. I think revitalize professional wrestling at that stage
Might have.
too.
King Lawler, tough MFer, tough. He picked the toughest one to get together with and to do this thing. Brilliant. He would wrestle with women,
Yeah.
on the undercard, and then when Lawler would come out, oh my God, he would curse at him, and whatever he saw the wrestlers do over the 10 or 20 years before him, that's what he wanted to do.
So, did you ever talk to Andy Kaufman about booking him on gigs? No. Were there people you tried to get who said no? That you really, really wanted?
I really don't remember that, but I know that Jay Leno was so busy that there was no way that he needed me to get him gigs.
Yeah.
Jay Leno was busy, but I did work with Paul Reiser, and Paul is brilliant. I worked with 35 guys, and most of the guys, maybe I didn't ask the superstars, but I had Howie Mandel and I had Murray Langston. They really didn't get any bigger than that. So, I don't know how it ended up. Some of it is a blur. I didn't do drugs or alcohol, but it was still, some of it was a blur, what went on out there.
So you had 30. Wow. So you had 35 guys in your stable for just those 3 to 5 years. So what did they do? How did you let them down? How did you walk away?
Well,
working with them?
after a while, I just said, "Listen, I'm leaving," and
okay.
everybody understands if someone says they're leaving, and they don't, because we used to say to ourselves, if we don't make it, we're going to have to go back to wherever town we came from and sell shoes or sell furniture. Not that those jobs are not honorable, but
They're not as much fun.
it's not as much fun. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're sitting there with Robin Williams and Murray Langston and all these, and Billy Crystal, and you leave and all of a sudden yuck. And then you leave with a ton of debt because you put everything on a credit card so you could stay, with it. But yeah, no, it was definitely a life-changing experience. I'm glad I did it. And now I get 40 years later, 35 years later, I've stayed in contact with these guys. And now I'm doing the 80s golden age of comedy where I'm getting the comedians to talk about things that they're not going to hear anyplace else. Their personal lives, how they made it, what were they afraid of. Just fantastic. 40. I'm already up to about 40 of these, and just imagine Bobby Slayton. I called Bobby one night, and I said, "Come on, Bobby, don't give me a hard time. Do the show." He says, "F you, I'm not doing your show." Fuck that, I'm not doing that. Come on, Bobby, just throw a bone at me. Let's just do the show. And he said, "Okay, right now. We got to do the show right now."
Wow.
I said, "Okay, just give me 4 minutes."
So
that's how that came about. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why he was peeing, I guess.
No, that was Murray Langston who did the
Murray.
peeing,
that was
not
Murray
Bobby
Langston.
Slayton.
Get your
Yeah.
act straight.
Yeah,
So-
Brendan.
So then, after you did your stint doing that for 5 years or whatever, then what did you do?
I went back to New York,
Yeah.
sold furniture.
In Yonkers?
No, in Manhattan.
Okay.
Manhattan.
I my family and friends put the word out that I was coming back, and I was offered 5 jobs just because, hey, listen, someone who can handle show business can freaking handle shoes. So I
So
went
shoes
back.
or furniture now?
Yeah, well, thank God I didn't have to do shoes. It
Okay.
reminds me of that show with that family with the redheaded wife and
Married with Children.
oh my God, where he had to sell shoes. Oh my God. But anyway,
Little House
after
on
a
the Prairie.
few months, I was hired by show business companies like Todd A.O., Glenn Sound. If you watch all the Lucy shows and Andy Griffith, you'll see Todd A.O., Glenn Sound. They opened up a studio in Manhattan to get some of the business there, and they hired me as the marketing person. So I worked in places like that. So I was back in the business after a while.
But back home
That's
in
cool.
Manhattan, so at least you get to be around familiar environments, but no more flings on the set of Laverne and Shirley. Speaking of which,
Oh,
how did you wind up on the set of Laverne and Shirley?
I was an agent,
Uh-huh.
and somebody back there, I was either representing or going to see or meet for a meeting or something, and it got me on the set, and
So which of the ladies did you date after that? Was it Penny Marshall?
well, she's passed on now, so I could say Penny Marshall's hard to date, but Penny Marshall was Gary Marshall's sister. So no, I didn't date any of them.
Yeah. So you're located in New York now.
No,
He's
I'm in
Florida.
South.
Where?
I'm in South Florida. I went back to Manhattan, in the 90s.
Oh, so you're back. You're in Florida.
Yeah, I'm in South Florida.
You're like Miami.
North of Miami. Can't you tell my tan? Can't you see that I have like a tan?
I'm saying this because I'm in Tampa. I'm a Florida boy myself.
Cool. Well, I'm on the East Coast in the Palm Beach.
East Coast, Palm Beach. All right.
That's funny. We wound up with 2 guys from Florida the same day. We've
I
been
know.
mainly dealing with West Coast people, so it's good to have somebody from the East Coast.
Let me
join
tell you,
us.
I shouldn't say this on your show, but Florida, especially my county real estate, you can't buy a house here. Everybody's coming down from those states that are shut down and being tortured. You can't buy a property here.
They're being tortured. They've
Dude,
got the
it's-
thumbscrews out.
It's so true. I was out at brunch with my daughter, and there was a real estate agent sitting next to me, and we were talking, and for whatever reason, she could tell we weren't from Florida, because I'm not. And she said, "Oh, you're not from Florida," and I'm like, "No." And anyway, she was telling me how she's selling houses. This is in the Tampa, Orlando area. She's selling houses by just walking through a house with a cell phone and just doing a video of it and then saying how much, and they make her an offer and she sells it.
Price wars. I'm telling you, you haven't seen anything like it. People are taking the money that they sold from the New York homes, New Jersey homes, Philadelphia homes, coming down here and thanking God that they were able to buy a property.
It's true. I'm really banking on it to sell my house like in the next year.
Well, it's going to be a good time to sell in the next year.
I agree.
Well, you don't want that bubble to burst whenever everybody's cured from COVID, and it's like, oh, we can.
Nah, they're never gonna get cured. It's just gonna go on forever.
And Florida is such a oasis. I mean, I shouldn't say too much more. I don't want any more people moving here.
I don't think you're going to stop them listening to our show.
Oh, okay.
I want more people. Everyone on the West
doing
Coast move to Florida, buy houses, mostly in Tampa. Don't go to South Florida. You don't want that. Tampa is where you want to buy a house.
You want to buy a house that's got a
pussy town
mother-in-law
south.
house on the property is the one you want.
Yes, you want a house where you've got dual, like a little mother-in-law house we have here in Florida. Why is this turning into a real estate show? Anyway.
Because you happen to mention that you're in Florida with Bruce.
That's right.
But we're not together.
No,
we're not.
No, you have
Howie Mandel would be jealous.
You have a wall of brick behind you, which shows that you're enclosed in something.
Exactly.
We're not together whatsoever.
No.
It's like the cask of Amontillado there. Somebody walled you in.
For the love of God, Montresor. Yes, for the love of God.
I made that wall myself. What do you think?
It's a good wall. It's a good job, good craftsmanship.
We can hear the bells jangling from behind it. Greg, you got me on a whole Edgar Allan Poe thing now.
Sorry.
It's like one of my favorite stories from Edgar Allan Poe is the one that you brought up. Anyway, so Bruce, you went back but in recent years, you've started a love line or something for relationships or I read that somewhere. I can't remember where.
What a difficult time I had in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to find out why some people had good relationships, why some people married, why some people didn't. And I really started studying it. And I started studying lots of different philosophies on life. I even became a professional speaker and spoke about what I was learning. And I went around the country actually speaking about it when I couldn't. When I was out of the business, I had to find something for myself. I got into radio, I got into local television, and I just started studying just for my own self to have better relationships. And then I learned so much from some incredible teachers that I started sharing my experiences.
So you had your own shows on radio and on television regarding relationships?
Yep.
How does one parlay that? You're just I've read some books and I want a show and I want you to give me a show. Is that how that works? You just go up to some guy at the station and...
No, I'll tell you one way I did it was from 1993 to 2003. I opened up a room on America Online. Anybody?
I still have an AOL email account.
Called Relationship Coaching. And this producer friend of mine in LA said, "What are you doing now?" When I went to visit, I said, I'm a speaker on relationships. He says, "Open up a room on America Online and you'll be able to talk to people from all over the country." I did that. I had 6,000 detailed, intimate, documented conversations with people. And I really helped a lot of people. But what was amazing was after listening to their stories, how much they taught me about relationships. So I wasn't just someone who put up a placard and said, "Come and be me." I wasn't a counselor. I wasn't a psychotherapist. I was a relationship coach.
So did you find a special someone?
Yeah.
Are you married?
Yeah, I took what I learned from all those years, and I've been with the same woman for 23 years. We've been married. We're married 16 years, and we adopted a little 16, 17-year-old girl and got married. So, yeah, I took what I learned. I'm a very
Congratulations.
Happy. Thank you.
See, Greg, there is hope for you.
I don't want that hope. Hope leads to disappointment and sorrow.
That's a good reason to never have hope, is because it could lead to disappointment and sorrow. But that means that you have hope for disappointment and sorrow.
That's to quibble. Yes, that's true.
So, guys, if you hear the dogs start barking again, it's because people are coming over. So I can either say goodbye now and not risk the dogs, or we can wait for the dog to start barking. Any way you want to go.
I think we should go till the dogs start barking. I think that's an appropriate conclusion to the show. But the question is, would that make it funny or not if the dogs start barking? Would we laugh? Is it contrast that makes it? I'm realizing that we had forgotten about our client for a while now, so we have to get back to we're not funny.
So, is there more than one dog? There's two dogs?
I have one.
Oh, it's one dog. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah, I
Matt.
heard your dog bark earlier, and I wouldn't laugh. I wouldn't think it's funny. I found it terrifying, actually.
So
Quite
the
scary.
only funny line was, "Stop it! I'm on television."
A very poor form of television.
The real question is, will my dog start barking before your dog starts barking? Because I'm expecting my daughter to be home. By the way, well done for you. I've been married. It'll be 30 years in August, and I've got 4 kids, 3 of which are adults. One is going to be
Short.
12 here. What?
So one is short.
One is short. One is still a not an adult. But when you find that, going back to what you were saying about relationships are something that you definitely have to work on, and it's a constant. It's something constantly you have to deal with, and deal with sounds rough. You have to work on. You have to work on it, and if you, like most men, don't, you just take it for granted, then it's hard. So yeah, it's good to hear that you spent some time doing that. I've taken a renewed interest in that at almost 30 years of marriage.
Yeah, I mean, that training that I went through, self-training to help understand people and myself, I wasn't going to go back on that once I got into relationship. I took all of that. I said, I want to be happy. I don't want to be alone, and I want to find someone I can navigate my life through. And then we came across a little baby girl that was like dying in a hospital, and we took her out of there and held her, hugged her, and kissed her for 4 weeks, and she started coming around. And a few months later, we decided to adopt her. So you never know when you allow people into your life. It's like you're one-dimensional when you're alone, but when you allow someone else into your life, all sorts of interesting, different things can happen.
So is your wife funnier than you?
Hell no. I got to tell you though, being around the comedians really has made me pretty funny. I know the timing. I know how to go for funny, and being around them has really been something else.
Do you have a favorite joke that one of your guys told, the one that like stuck with you for all of these years?
Not really.
Well, how dare you?
Yeah, someone just told me the Murray Langston joke when Murray Langston did an impersonation of the first man on the sun. Do you know that there was a man on the sun?
No.
He slipped down on the sun. He went, ow, 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 hot, hot.
That is definitely an unknown comic joke, if there ever was an unknown comic.
That is an unknown joke. Yeah.
Yeah, because if the science wouldn't allow for that, you would turn to gas before you get close enough to. And that's why we're not funny.
Because Matt's going to overanalyze every joke.
Yeah.
Why is the chicken crossing the road? Where is this road that the chicken is crossing?
Why would a chicken cross the road anyway?
Because the vampire road, Brendan. That's why you'd cross it.
Oh.
There wouldn't be any other reason to cross a road unless it's a vampire.
Okay, guys, listen. I'm not going to wait for the dog because people are coming over in 2 minutes.
You got to go.
Yes, we really appreciate you coming on, Bruce. If you don't mind giving us all of your Rolodex phone numbers so we could call all these guys that you've had as well.
Peace, love, dove, 80s golden age of comedy.com.
Like it shows on the screen. 80s golden age of comedy.
You'll have a great time, I promise you. And let me know what you think once you go there. Guys, you've been great. I've really enjoyed this.
All right, thank you, man.
It's been great. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've left the offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker. It's over. It's over. It's time for you to go home. It's over. It's over. Go away now.